It's the Silly Moustache here, and Europe's heatwave seems to have finally broken. We've got grey clouds, thank goodness, and we've had rain. And in my conservatory, instead of 100 degrees Fahrenheit, it's gone down to a mere 78 degrees. And relative humidity is 66% at the moment, so I'm not going to keep my guitars in here for too long. But I wanted to talk to you about my approach to strings and some strange things that have happened. Now, strange thing happened in 2023 when I first experienced excess strings. A guy that has set in his ways EJ17s and EJ16s and changed them every 3 months. And now I'm using excess strings all of a sudden. And for me, still, simple concept for dreadnoughts, medium gauge, 13 to 56, right, no further discussion. And for triple O's and lighter guitars, light gauge, 12 to 53, no problems, everything was simple, right? So I won't go into the other ones, but Archtops and resonators, basically medium gauge, and with resonators, slight difference on the first string. Okay, so there we have it. Now I have converted to XS light gauge 1253 and XS 1356. Everything in the garden is lovely. And D'Addario sent me these Light Plus, Phosphor Bronze Light Plus. This is upsetting my life. I don't understand this. So I had a little look into them. Now, if you open up the rather sproncy packaging of these things, you've got details of the gauge, diameter, and the tensions of these strings at normal tuning for a 25.5 inch scale. Right, okay, so I compared these, so I'm going to round this up to the nearest pound. On light gauge it's 156 pounds. Medium gauge it's 181. Right, 156 plays 181. Right, light plus is 173. So that's about 10% more than the light gauge, but only about 4.5% less than the medium gauge. So the earring a little bit towards medium, but not quite. Okay, so how am I going to use these things? Well, my Waterloo WL12, very lightly built maple back guitar, small body, double O-ish, sort of modelled on an early Kalamazoo. I'd just come back from Dave, and he said, I got the action down as low as I can. And I thought, I don't like low as I can, I like 70, 75, 90, 95. And so he put nickel bronze on it, which is what my preference would be for this guitar. And it was a little bit rattly around here. And so I thought, well, I'll put these Light Plus on here. Oh, very nice. Okay, so they're going to stay on for a while. That seems to suit it quite nicely. Now, the tension on that is a little bit more than would be recommended by Collings Waterloo. Okay, so looking at it the other side, so they're only, these Light Plus are only about 4.5 to 5% less in tension than mediums. So what if I put them on a dreadnought? Here is my Collings DS1a Adirondack, 2003, been around the block a bit. So I put these on last Thursday, and then I took it along to the club and I played about half a dozen songs, and I thought it went quite well. You know, you always do a little flub of it and you cover it up and stuff. And I thought I was playing okay tonight. I got an email the next day from Adrian, my good friend and just about one of the best guitarists that come along to my club, a very fine musician and a lovely guy. And he said, oh, by the way, your playing and singing last night was the best I've ever heard you. What? I always thought that putting a lighter gauge than medium strings on a dreadnought guitar was a bit like putting bicycle tyres on an SUV. So I was a bit confused by that. It feels rather nice. So now I have a problem. Do I have to go out and buy lots more light plus strings? And what am I going to do with all my medium strings? Oh, by the way, the gauges made me laugh. I have to tell you this. On light gauge strings, the first string, the top E, is going to be 12. On mediums, it's going to be 13. 12 and 13. How could you split between those two? On the light plus, they're 12 and a half thousandths. Right, that sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? Same on the B string. Same on the wound G string, 24, 26, 25, 24 and a half. There we go. And then we get, it's a little bit heavier, 2 thousandths heavier on the D string than lights, and 2 thousand different on the A. And so 53 light gauge bass E, 6 string, 56 on mediums, it's a 54. So a very interesting change in between, slightly going towards, a little bit towards the mediums, but not quite. So they're fascinating, but I think they work rather well. There we are, 12.5, 54, light plus. Let me know if the idea of that appeals to you. That's about it. So I'm now in a quandary. I've got mediums and I've got lights, and should I be buying all light plus? What do you think? If you have been, thanks for watching. Bye.